Hi all, welcome back to the Chessable Masters. Today is the last day of the semi-final and I'm going to show you a very exciting game between Ian Nepomniachtchi with the white pieces and Anish Giri. It's the first game of the day and let me tell you, the gloves are off. The winner of this set faces Magnus Carlsen in the final. So with that being said, let's get started. So Jan opens with knight to f3. We have the ready opening, d5, e3, and knight to f6. We have c4 now, e6, knight to c3, and we have takes on c4. Black continues with c5, trying to occupy this square in the center. We have d4 now, a6, and e4, grabbing more space in the center. We have takes and takes on d4, and now bishop to d6. We have bishop to e3, and now castles and rook to c1. So far, white is fully developed. Has a C file. Perhaps he wants to go castle or something, but he's looking very strong already. Well, Anish opted for castling first, but still has a lot of pieces just undeveloped. So we have b5 now, trying to gain tempo and maybe fianchetto the bishop. Bishop to b3, bishop to b7, and now the moment you've all been waiting for, bishop takes e6. Yes, a sacrifice. And Giri responds with knight to e4. But I just want to show you what happens if you take. Yeah, so if you take and you play this, and you take back with the king, most likely Nepo would have castled and you continue developing. And in fact, this position is quite equal. I mean, black's pieces are now all developed. There is no immediate attack on the horizon. Sure, white is is the exchange up, but still, this is a very much a holdable position for black. Instead, after the knight or after the bishop takes e6, Gary played knight takes e4. So a pawn for a pawn, saying, okay, if you go ahead and grab my knight. So Jan obliges, takes and takes, and queen to g4 now, and bishop to back to g6. So for the moment, the material is completely equal, but it's a very awkward position with Jan's king still being in the center and his bishop under attack here, and with Giri's pieces still being undeveloped. We have bishop to f5, and now queen to a5. We have king to f1 now, saying, okay, I don't want to maybe attack and or maybe defend with my bishop and then castling. No, I'm just gonna put my king on f1, and I'm gonna prepare to launch an attack on your king side. We have bishop to e5 by Giri, and now takes and takes on g6 with h4 now by Jan. We have queen to a2, and yeah, after this position, the best continuation for black was actually to take the knight, um, because this knight is gonna prove very dangerous. Um, but Gary opted to take a pawn. Why not? A pawn is a pawn. But this, unfortunately for him, just gives white a major advantage. So Jan played h5 now, and we have queen back to d5. We have takes and takes on g6, and now the thing is, if you played anything else, if you didn't take, but for example, you take the knight now, then in fact it's a checkmate. After rook takes queen, and then you have to then it's just delaying of the checkmate with going like this. So the position is actually really dangerous, and yeah, and this open file is gonna wreck Giri. So we got f takes g6, and now well, you could play queen takes. Jan opted for knight to e6, saying, okay, I want to bring my knight to g5 now, and with that I'm gonna take away these squares for the king. So then, let's say if you know, if black plays something silly, and you allow this, then the next move would just be again rook to g h8 with check, and if you take, you fall into queen to h4 check. King has to move back, and followed by the king to h7 checkmate. So you have to be very careful. Giri played rook to e8, trying to have maybe some escape route for his king if all goes sour on the h file. And we have knight to g5 now. Nepo continuing his attack. And now Giri played bishop to f6, trying to defend and attacking this knight. And now there was a opportunity for Jan to just destroy Giri, but he played king to g1, which actually just completely equalizes the game again, because Giri can take on g5 and can take the threat away. But just to show you what could have been, Jan, he could have played just rook to h8 again, and after king takes, queen to h4 check, king to g8. Now the queen infiltrates with king f8, and now there is this very sneaky bishop to c5 check. And whatever you do here, if you try to block it somehow, let's say you try to block it by bishop e7, you get takes, and you just get mated here after king takes, queen takes g7. And whenever you go, if you go here or here, or if you go here, then it's just made here, and it's the same if you go here, you also get mated right here. So you cannot block with the bishop, but maybe you can block with the rook. But then you know, you get something similar by this takes, and if you take with the bishop here, you get rook to c8, and then you just lose the queen. So this would have been absolutely devastating for black. So you will be forced to take the bishop here with the queen, and then it's just all over. So yeah, that would have been absolutely devastating to play rook h8, but Nepo didn't, and played king to g1 now, allowing Giri to actually take the knight on g5. We have takes on g5, and now Giri can finally develop his knight to c6. And currently the evaluation is just 0-0, so it's completely equal. But it still looks very dangerous for black. So Jan continues with bishop to e3, with probably with ideas of this bishop going to c5 again, trying to cut off escape squares for the king. And now we have knight to e5, attacking the queen, defending the g6 pawn, and yeah, all in all, it seems like a very good move. We have queen to h3 now, and now, unfortunately, Giri played knight to c4, which he shouldn't have done. And in fact, the computer says the best move here is just king to f7. Um, Black has things pretty much under control here. You know, you can these pawns are protected now. If you play rook to c7, you can simply block it, and after takes, there's not a real follow-up here for white. So that would have been actually the best continuation. But Giri, he played knight to c4, which immediately gives Jan a winning opportunity yet again. So he played queen to h7 with check, king to f7, and now bishop a6, threatening to take on g7. Um, so Giri defends with queen to e5, and now we have rook to h3 now, with the ideas of bringing it to f3. We have rook to g8, defending, adding another defender to the pawn. And we have rook to f3 now with check. King to e7. And now Jan played rook takes c4 with the idea, if you take, I'm just gonna grab your queen and it'll be all over. Um, but after Jan played rook to take c4, this was actually Anish's final chance to actually not lose this match. So um, let me give you a couple of seconds and see if you can find out how Giri could have equalized the match in this position. So um, best move for black in this position is queen to e1 with check. And after the king moves to h2, you go back to e5. And the thing is, you might be thinking, oh, you're just going to block with the bishop. But because your king is now on h2, this runs in a very nasty rook on h8. And you will lose the queen here. After this, you'll have to take. And after you take with check, the position is probably just still equal, um, but white is definitely not happy here. So you cannot block with the bishop, so you'll have to play something like a king to h3 or something. Because if you just go back, black black will just repeat. So I have to play king to h3, and now black can simply take the rook, and after you trade your queen for the other rook, and you probably play something like king to f6, or for example. Um, this is also very tricky because you'll have to give up the bishop here. If you move the bishop again, this rook will win you the queen. So you have to do something like queen. Bishop takes and rook takes and then queen to h4, and yeah, it's a queen against two rooks. So this would have saved Anish the game. So after Jan takes the knight on c4, Giri could have equalized, but he didn't see it and he played rook to h8 now. And now it was a simple conversion. Rook to e3 would be a mistake because after rook to e3 you exchange queens, but after king to f6 there's just too many things hanging for white and you will not be having a good time here. So you cannot do that, but what Jan played was queen to g7, just very straightforward. Also possible would have been bishop to g5, but Jan played queen takes g7 and after takes and rook e4 with check, getting the rook out of harm's way. It was Anish Giri who resigned the game. Because when you move the king, let's say to d6, you pick up the queen and you are a full piece up. So an amazing game. Jan really put on the pressure today. And a very good game. Starting off with a sacrifice on e6, and yeah, deciding not to castle and starting an attack on the king side. Just amazing game, really exciting. The game is still being played right now, and I'm gonna make sure I'm gonna put at least one more game up tonight from them. So stay tuned, and I hope you liked this game as well. If you did, please give it a like and a comment and subscribe. And I hope to see you again in the next one.